Welcome everybody to Parts Hold.
Here to fill the order.
Today on Parts Hold, our topic is tire inventory. The good, the bad, and the round. We're also going to discuss the fact that Cliff has a major fault when it comes to his choice of pets. And finally, we're going to explain how storing a whole bunch of stuff can be a really great revenue stream. I'm Christian Lafferty, this is Cliff Honeycutt, and welcome to Parts Hold. So, obviously, what's our company animal?
A bulldog.
Yes. We identify as bulldogs. We love bulldogs. Chris has 4 bulldogs. And I guess I kind of assumed, I'm trying to remember back to when I hired you, I might have forgotten to ask a really important question. So Cliff, I'm just curious, what kind of pets do you have?
Oh, I got 3 dogs.
Do you? Is that it?
I have 3 cats too.
You actually own these cats and they take up residence inside your home?
Yeah, I actually really like 2 of them. One of them, it's a little iffy, but 2 of them I really, really like. Is that a prerequisite?
Let's just say that's a part of the screening that you might have snuck through. Like literally, you can't have a cat.
They're super entertaining though.
Cats are jerks. Like literally, that's not a pet. You get that, right?
So I would disagree with that.
Convince me. My mind can be changed.
Mine are quite enjoyable. If you make your way to North Carolina, you're welcome to stay at the house. You can see for yourself.
Tell me the great things about your cat. Which is the best cat of the 3?
See, that's a toss-up. We have Max and Leo. Those are kind of, they go hand in hand.
Okay, and which
Max
is the cat that you want to drown? You said there's one that you don't really like.
Yeah, that's Carmen.
Carmen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and what is it that's so amazing about the 2 cats you like?
They're just enjoyable. They're fun. They're sweet cats. They're entertaining.
Like, how do they entertain you?
Just watching them play.
What do they do? Hold on. Let me be a cat for a second. God, I love watching that.
I don't know what to say after this point because I just really do like them.
Yeah, but I don't think you have any good reason for liking them. No,
they're super lovable. They're friendly. I can call their names. They know their names.
Room.
See, here's the thing that's interesting. So I would agree with you. They are snooty.
Yeah.
I heard someone say one time that if you have a plate of food and the dog sticks its nose in your plate of food and you smack their face, they now know not to stick their face in your food, right?
Okay.
The cats are a little bit different. If a cat sticks its nose in your food and you smack the cat, it now realizes that there's something worth getting smacked for. So I appreciate their persistence and their resilience.
I mean, I guess dolphins are smart too. Do you want a dolphin?
Oh, that would be awesome. Stick a dolphin in the backyard.
Put him in the bathtub. Who cares?
Oh, put him in the bathtub? Hell yeah.
All right. So I'm not completely convinced yet, but Cliff, God love him, is a cat person.
I don't like the sound of that, but it is true.
Yeah. I feel like, and how many cats do we have now? Because we can't just have 1 cat. We have to have 3 cats.
So we have 3 dogs, 3 cats, and 3 kids.
Okay. But you understand that 3 cats is the gateway to hoarderism?
No.
Yeah. So I feel like next year at this time, you'll have 12 cats and literally one little narrow walkway for you to get from your kitchen to your bedroom to your bathroom.
That's possible.
Yeah. So
not likely.
You heard it here first. Cliff is going to be a hoarder because of his love of cats. So pretty sure that's a guarantee. I don't even know if there's, we can't go back from this. But yeah, I love cats. No, I don't love cats. I can't even fake that.
Do you remember being on a Zoom call? We were on a coaching call, and one of my cats came on my desk.
And I think I said, "What the hell is that?"
I think that's exactly the words that you
now
used.
that I didn't, maybe I just didn't connect that was yours.
And then I remember you saying, "Hey, get that satanic thing off of the table." I do remember that as well.
Yeah, I've got, I don't know, maybe it's me. But it's funny because our subject today also, like, it's polarizing almost, right? And the one thing that this topic has is a pretty strong emotion. Like, there's no middle ground on this.
No, this is when you're in or out.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about tire inventory. And Cliff has some pretty strong feelings on tires. I kind of approach it from a different angle, but Cliff definitely approaches it from the parts manager angle. And I'm really excited to kind of have that discussion today. You know, we've talked about tires on Service Drive Revolution before, but I think that this take on it's going to give you guys a couple of little tips, and I think that that's going to be a great discussion. But let's just kind of talk about really the tire inventory philosophies. Maybe just kind of start us out with that. It's like, why would you have, what is the best tire inventory? Why wouldn't we? Why would we? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
How's that sound to start us off?
Yeah, so are we going to kind of debate this back and forth, or how do we want to do this?
Well, I think that you just kind of give me like the rundown, and I'll let you know what I think that might be the best thing at the end of the day.
So I think number one, first and foremost, they're a nuisance.
Oh. Because they're cumbersome?
They're cumbersome, they're bulky, they take up a lot of space.
They smell funny?
They have a funky smell, so it's certainly going to throw that one in there. One of the things as a parts manager that just drove me crazy is the margin. There's just not margin there.
Why do you think that is?
Pricing structure.
Okay.
The tribal knowledge of Billy Bob's down the street sells them for X dollars, and I've got to sell them for X dollars.
So is price the only competitive thing on tires?
No.
So what are some other things? So I get it, and I think people are pretty price conscious on tires. But we could compete other ways. I think that couldn't the inventory be a differentiator? Because I feel like everybody has to order tires nowadays.
Everybody has to. Yeah. So the other side of that is finding somebody who's a good fit. So let me go on the other side. That's some of the reasons why I found tires to be a nuisance. And
right,
I'm sure there's
they take up a lot of space. There's bad margin. They smell funny.
Yep.
And it's like they're always in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? I've kind of paraphrased that for you. Okay, that makes sense.
So the other side of that is in selling them, I get the opportunity to get other items there that I get to sell. So whether it's brake pads, brake rotors, shocks, struts, whatever else there is, so I get an opportunity to sell something that's got a much better margin for me as a parts manager. The next thing of that is I'm going to have to approach it in a couple different ways because it is a relatively competitive item in many ways. I'm going to have to reach out to many different distributors. So a lot of the manufacturers have realized now that it's a really big thing, and so they have their own programs. But I'm going to have to go different avenues. I'm going to have to reach out to some distributors. I'm going to have to reach out to some local places, and I'm going to have to broaden that out a little bit more.
Do you think most stores just use whatever the manufacturer recommended
I don't think
vendor is?
No, I don't think that that's the case at all. Now, is there some out there? Sure. But I think the ones that work really, really well and work the programs find that they're going to use a bunch of different avenues, whether it be a local distributor, and really, really good parts managers are going to use their inventory. Mm-hmm. Not only are they going to use their inventory to match theirs, but it's going to be a complement of theirs. And so if I only want to stock one or two deep on that, I have somebody that's local that's going to have a lot more depth to their inventory.
What would you tell a truck shop that doesn't do tires?
A truck shop that doesn't do tires, they're missing an opportunity. They're missing an opportunity to take care of the customer. They're missing an opportunity to sell something. They're missing an opportunity to make some margin off of that and some money. And I think if you're late to the game, I think if you're not in it now, you're late to the game.
Oh, that might be true. Because, I mean, if it's the one thing that trucks are going to need, it's tires, right?
I think if you go with the truck market, you can't afford not to sell tires.
Wow. Okay, that's strong.
It's another avenue to increase things. Think of it in a sense that most people completely change their tires from what is original equipment. Whether they upsize, when they put a lift kit on there, whatever the case is. Think about it in a sense that you can individualize tires.
Okay.
Personalize.
What is your thought on the parts managers that don't inventory hardly any tires because they just rely on like that same day delivery?
So in that sense, you're missing out an opportunity there. It goes with the fill rate, with the lost sell. I think you track tires the same way you do any other inventory.
Oh, so if you don't have a tire, you track it as a lost sale?
Absolutely, you do it as a lost sell. Yeah. In some cases, your manufacturer is putting that into the parts tape and they can run it straight in and you can treat it like a general part number. In other cases, maybe you need to go old school and do actual spreadsheet and do a piece of paper where you're writing down the items that you don't have.
Did you do a lot of spreadsheets?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you were an old-fashioned guy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I loved writing things down. Good parts guy always has a pen, by the way.
Which you do always have a pen. That's
You gotta have a pen.
You also have like little cards.
So every parts manager that I've ever been around has a notepad in their pocket ready to roll because you're writing things down constantly throughout the day. And so those are kind of essentials.
Okay.
But I think with the going back to the parts thing, I think you just got to be diversified. Think of it as a stock portfolio again, and you got to be diversified on the brand and other items that you do. There are some exceptional brands out there that aren't as mainstream as some of the more popular names.
Is there a couple of brands that you've done really well with over the past?
Yeah, Kumo brand was a good one for us.
Kumo used to be a really cheap tire.
Yes.
But it's not as cheap as it used to be
And it's
anymore.
on a lot of the manufacturers now.
Yeah, so I think Kia uses Kumo. I've seen it on Nissans before.
Yep.
I want to say Hyundai uses it. I don't remember if Honda and Toyota do, but I've seen it on several OE cars.
The Pirelli I did good early on as well with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Highline brand, but that's a good one as well.
Yeah, surprisingly, I remember Pirelli actually had a decent. It was a Scorpion, I think, is what the name of it was. But that was a really, really good SUV tire.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think you just gotta research. You're gonna have to take some time and look at that stuff.
So on your spreadsheets, like what kind of things are you recording? So you got the tire thing. I guess I just think, somebody kind of looking from the outside in, is that you've got tires. Obviously, it's a frequency of sale or request, which if you're doing a lost sale.
So I'm going straight request. I'm going quantity, I'm going tire size, and I'm going brand.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about parts managers that'll keep one tire in stock of them?
Oh, that's awful. That you're ruining yourself. You're setting yourself up for failure for the customer to go elsewhere.
Okay. So that's essentially, it's running the risk of becoming obsolete, right? So that's the thing is that
tire?
Yeah, you're just waiting for someone to get a nail.
So that brings in a little bit of other element to it too, of reasons why and why not. It's a nuisance as far as rotating the inventory.
Okay.
Now,
do you manage that inventory differently?
Of course you manage that inventory differently,
Okay.
yeah.
Help me understand that.
So the theory is if you buy it different, sell it different, or stock it different, then you manage it different. And so I want to source that in its own source. Not to mention, in most cases, the taxing is different. There's disposal fees that go along with it. So I need to account for all of that stuff. And so by sourcing it different, I can manage that differently.
Okay. That's probably even a whole nother topic of discussion is how to dispose of the tires.
Ooh.
Once you get rid of them.
Yeah.
But we don't have to talk about that today, but it's an interesting discussion, right?
Yeah, well, some places won't let you store used ones outside. Some places will. There's multiple different things there.
Well, in Florida, you had to have a tarp over everything. I think it was Florida, yeah.
I'm going to assume because of mosquitoes collecting in the water. Yeah, so there's definitely a thing there. But yeah, I would definitely manage it different. However, if you look at it, if you get involved with some of the distributors out there, they're going to give you the bins, they're going to give you the setup, they're going to give you the layout,
racks,
they'll
all
give
that
you the
stuff.
racks, they'll give you the merchandising tools that you can put at your front counter, and make sure that your customers are aware. In a lot of cases, it's the best kept secret. So I do think there has to be some merchandising. Now, I will tell you that I am not a fan of putting out in the parking lot. Like when you pull into a parking lot and you see these giant things of stands of tires, I just don't know how I feel about that. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that, there's definitely something as a dealership in a parts department, we have to understand that it's a great product for us to have and to sell. There's a retention thing that goes along with it. We've talked before about, really when you think about tires, they can also be considered kind of an accessory after the sale. If we have a alternate set of wheels and tires, I think that's another great revenue opportunity for us that I actually believe that when you're adding it at time of sale is not as competitive as what it might be when it's a replacement tire.
Okay.
So I think that there's a little more margin opportunity on that. I would want to let our clients know that we're in the tire business. I will tell you that I think that there's opportunity, like, you've talked before about our wholesale accounts. I think you could probably have a wholesale market on tires if you wanted to. I think that there's probably some front counter opportunity. In our northern states, I think there's revenue opportunity on studying, and we'll probably talk about winter tire storage in a little bit. But I think that that's another opportunity. But I'm not offended by there being the tire racks outside. I just don't know if that's the place. I like a nice controlled inventory, and I would want to keep them inside, even though I get it that there's the locks and all that stuff. But
so I think that looks a little trashy in my opinion with the chain, and you've got a clasp all through there. I just felt like that I had better control over it when it was inside the parts department than outside the parts department. But I do like the kind of displays where you have them displayed out in a lot of cases. I just don't like the stacks with the thing over the...
Yeah, I get that. I think the other thing too is that too often when I see external racks, the counter people, they forget that that's an inventory, and they go and they look at the inside inventory that's in the parts room, and then they don't see it. They adjust the inventory, and then there's the tires sitting out on the outside. So
that's
stack.
Another conversation of proper bin counts, proper bin checks, proper running my bins multiple times to see where stuff is. But there does need to be a thing on rotating it. Think about that for a second. If a tire's out of date, it becomes a liability. I can't sell those tires when they've had them on the shelf too long.
Yeah, like the DOT number's too old or whatever it is.
So I need to get somebody who's going to come in and have a good relationship with my distributor. That's the way that always worked well for me, is having that relationship with that distributor, that they would come in and help me rotate my stock.
And then they did the returns too for
Yes.
you? So as long as you didn't catch it too late, you were good.
Yes. Yep. Developing that relationship with that distributor and multiple distributors is going to assist you with that.
Okay, so that all kind of comes in with the organization of tires, right? So I think that too often when I'll go into a parts department, their bin location on tires is called tire.
That's interesting.
Have you seen that before?
Yeah, well, so I've seen it just T1, I've seen T2. I've done T1, T2. I've done a rack thing. I found that to be the best way, is rack and then go down the shelf.
Yeah, so you have 10 racks. You call them number them 1 through 10.
I always like to have mine kind of organized together. So I might have my two 25, 60, 16s together. I might have my two 65, 60, 18s together. And then my bottom shelf, I'd have my two 75, 50, 20s.
Yeah, that looks better too, right? I think that that's another thing that I see with tire inventories, is that looks like it's a mess, because you'll have a small tire next to a big tire, and it's like one here, and then there's 3 on shelf 1, 1 on shelf 2, and it just looks like we don't care.
I think that's training your people right and having them do the right thing, having a good shipping and receiving clerk that's going back there and checking that stuff for you, running your perpetual inventory counts to keep that stuff in control. Like, there's multiple ways to kind of control that, but just having some organization to it and having it in some kind of numerical order does help and assist in tires. Tires are a little bit different than parts in that sense. I can't put all my part numbers the same and lay them out, but I could certainly do that with my tires.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so, I think the more organized, the better off you are.
And then you're going to have to be strategic on your pricing. There are some some purchase discounts that you could probably take advantage of. There's some programs out there that you could take advantage of. But you definitely, I don't see it being an item that's going to have a really, really large margin, because it is such a competitive item that I think you're going to have to be really strategic in the way you price it.
Yeah. You know, talking about strategy reminds me of something. Like, I've got a strategy, and I want to be a songwriter. So once I wrote a song about tortillas.
Okay.
Well, but now that I think about it, it was more of a rap.
I feel like there should be a drum thing there, maybe.
We've been working on that in editing.
I actually kind of like that.
So another topic that I wanted to hit on, and I'm kind of curious to hear what you think about this, because it's definitely what I would say next level parts thinking. But this was something that we were talking about with Chris over dinner not too long ago, and it is about the winter tire storage.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that is a huge opportunity. I'm curious to hear your thoughts from like that parts perspective, but on me thinking holistically as the dealership as a business or the independent shop as a business, I think tire storage may be the best retention tool on the planet. If you have their tires, you have their business, is kind of how I think about it. But I'm curious to see what kind of ideas you've got in terms of, would you do winter tire storage if you owned a shop that was in a cold weather state that had tire switches? Some provinces in Canada actually require it, which is one of my favorite things in the world to have. And maybe how would you monetize it, and what do you think of it as a business model?
I would certainly have to figure out some kind of method to have it labeled correctly. Like, maybe I have a label with the customer's name on it, the RO that it was on, and then I'm going to do a wrap around that I have them together and organized. I want to be able to find them. I don't want them, as a parts manager, I don't want them out everywhere, out throughout the service department or in sales or stuck in some random storage. If I'm responsible for them, I want them under my control and in my house.
Well, I think random storage would be okay.
Off-site storage.
Off-site storage, storage containers, stuff like that. But I think that you hit the nail on the head is about the labeling.
It's more about the control of it that I think on the outside storage. That's kind of what I'm.
Well, we're back to inventory control.
That's correct.
Too, right?
That's correct.
But way too often, I can tell you like what I would consider the standard of organizing winter tires is you have a stack of 4 tires and a copy of the RO between the 3rd tire and the 4th tire.
Yes.
Like literally, what could possibly happen?
Yeah. So I would probably do more of something where I had a larger piece of paper, maybe with a Sharpie written on it.
Well, they have label makers nowadays that you can actually attach like a sticker right to the tire. But I like the idea of I would sticker the tires, I would wrap it,
Yes.
And then I would actually label the outside.
Yes, for sure.
I would double it up even if it seemed redundant, because I think there's something to it too, is when, let's say that a customer comes in to get their tires, and they see that it's like, Lafferty and it has the date and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, so they took good care of my tires, right? What about a revenue stream for that?
So I was sitting here thinking about that too, and thinking about it for parts managers. It's an opportunity because we all do the same thing. We're looking for little areas and little places that we can increase our revenue. This is a way to do that under the storage aspect of it. I'm storing these tires for you. I'm going to take care of them. Now, on the other side of that, I can't stick a label up under a couple tires and expect the customer to be willing to pay. But if they see that it was taken care of, they're willing to pay.
And they're not able, so it takes this item. So I think kind of what you're alluding to is this. One is that maybe that there could be a subscription fee, right, to store the tires. And you could also work that in, this is about parts, but service could get a revenue with this, right? So you could do a thing where you're doing tire storage looped in with an annual alignment and let's say rotations, okay? So let's say it's $300 a year or $400 a year, and it includes that beautiful wrap job that you just talked about. We store the tires and then we kind of take care of them all through it, and then they don't go anywhere else. But then the other thing that's great that does is I think when we're storing tires, we get to sell the tires as they're coming off, not as they're going on.
Yeah, so if I'm a parts manager, I might be looking at that and just measuring that. The service technician is taking it off and he's just going to throw it wherever because that's just what they do.
Yep.
And so I would organize it, put it together, measure the tires, and then let them know where that stands.
Yeah, and then we just store their new tires.
Yeah.
Right? So then it's almost like it's an instant inventory relief even though we keep the tires. So we're like, okay, which tires do you want? You can have this one. I would guess at that point, if they're a captive audience, if we're storing them every year, so you might have margin opportunity. And then we literally order the tires, get them in, wrap them, store them, they're off the books.
So there's an opportunity there for the parts guy to let the service department know if the tires are running, too long, they're getting out of date, if they're weather cracked, if the measurements are poor, and then it gives me an opportunity as a parts guy to increase my revenue. That's really what I'm concerned about as a parts guy, is increasing my revenue and getting some more money in the department. So yes, I would definitely be all in on the storage fee. And not to mention, if I'm gonna have to manage it and take care of it, I want to get paid for
money.
it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think the thing is what that makes it for is that like what you're charging for is not necessarily, it's not just a store. I think that when you're talking about having packages with rotates, alignments, and then like sending them a picture of what the wrap looks like, then it's all of a sudden, oh, you're taking really good care of my stuff. And then just because somebody might do it for $50 a year or whatever, they don't get the same service. And now we're talking about exchanging value instead of just competing on price, which is the main reason people don't like tires anyways, right?
Yeah, I just want to look for a place that I can keep them secure and safe.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that kind of as we're wrapping everything up, I would say that tire inventory, I think, what Coach Cliff is saying is that, it doesn't have to be a necessary evil. It can be a welcome opportunity. I think as we start to think about that, there's a level of organization and inventory management that we probably are not doing as well industry-wide that we could be doing. I think the other thing is that properly organizing the tires within the department, recognizing, where exactly the inventory should be, is a great opportunity to show, that we actually are in the tire business and thinking about getting customers back, being creative with the sales department, and tire and wheel sets, I think is a really, really good thing. I think that brings you in. Another thing you talk about there is what do you do to remarket takeoffs, which I think is a huge opportunity. And then finally, that winter storage thing can be its own business. Really, at the end of the day, it's a wonderful idea to try to keep the customer. We had made the suggestion to package everything together along with the service department so that both we get the retention of the customer, service makes a little bit of money, parts makes their money on this thing, and we get rewarded for the work that we do and the storage that we do. But tires in general, and especially if you're, like Cliff was saying, if you're in the heavy duty truck industry, like if you're not on the tire board, you might be too late already. But man, there's a lot of tires on a truck, and I would want to have a captive audience and trying to replace them. So, with that being said, I really want you to kind of go into the tire thing with an open mind, and there's just look at it way more as opportunity than a thorn in the side. So that's all the time we have today for Parts Hold. See you next time. Thank you for watching another episode of Parts Hold. Remember to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon to get notified when new episodes and content come out. To learn more about our products and services, go to www.chriscollinsinc.com. Or if you have a question, feel free to call 8333-ASK-SDR.